Apple doesn't have a key into your communication, and so as far as I know, they can't see what you're sending to other iMessage recipients, or other, they can't snoop on your FaceTime calls. Well, the last project I did before Longhorn was Windows XP product activation. Well, not me, but if you're living in the Pacific Northwest in the 1990s and you're making millions of dollars in stock options, what do? You go skiing a lot in the winter, I think. Hey, I'm Dave. Welcome to ShopTalk. This is our first time doing the ShopTalk episode live. We're going to give that a shot tonight. We're streaming on the Riverside platform, so all the quality issues and that you may experience are going to be blamed on that. But if it works well, we'll also give it the credit due. We'll see how it goes. All I did was click stream, and the rest is magic. So what's going on in the shop? Well, I've been working on a Tempest AI, which is one of the reasons I haven't done an episode, because once I start working on something, I'm hard to get distracted. And what I'm doing is I've totally instrumented the game, as I think I described previously, and now it's at the point where I've got a behavioral cloning algorithm and a reinforcement learning algorithm, and they're both training on the game and they're learning, but so far it just kind of plays very poorly. It does play, but it doesn't play especially well. So what else? I just built an 1173 PDP that I'm going to stick on eBay. So if you're looking for a PDP 1173 that boots BSD Unix and RT11 and RSX11M and works and has all the good parts inside, that's what I built. So check it out on eBay. I'm sure you'll find it. There can't be many up there. What else? Did a new episode on Longhorn today, which I was pretty happy with. I think it came out good. I'm probably too close to the story, but I thought it was good. So that's about my week, really putting that episode together. So let's see if we've got any questions from my co-host, Glen. What do you got for me today, Glen?
Okay, I'm going to struggle a bit for the first little bit. We had a few questions from the last Shop Talk episode, so I'll fire a couple of those off you. I'll try and pay a bit of attention. I'm also going to be staring off around here as I try and pick up questions from the chat. So I'm doing some heavy lifting here today, but I think I'm all right. First one here, Cliff Shockley. I believe I recognize that name. He says, I've always assumed Dave and Glenn must have been classmates or friends back in Regina, but I don't think it's ever been said. That has been said.
Has it?
A couple of times. I think so.
Yeah, we went to high school together. We were in the same program in grade 9, and then you went, grade 11 to a different high school? Or 10?
Yeah, grade 9 and 10 I was at Miller, and then I booked off to my neighborhood school. So
okay. And I dropped out, so. So we spent a couple of years together there.
Oh.
What do you got?
I was going through some stuff. I found my University of Regina student card today.
All right. What's your number? 188 or 187?
No, it was 13. Oh, shoot. I used to know it. Oh, no. Sorry. That was my U of R number or my U of S number.
Oh, okay. I still know my.
I can't even read it off this start. Oh, 186. Oh, 01597. 186
186. So you started in 86. I started in 89.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, I finished in 86 too, so I did an entire semester. And
then you went to Saskatoon eventually?
Well, yeah, I took some time off and then went to, Saskatoon. But so yeah, grade 9, 10, there you go. Uncle Rogelio, can't afford to lose the views? Afford in terms of what? Can't imagine you're concerned about the ad revenue.
No, not especially. But what I hate about the YouTube algorithm is if I do a popular episode and then I do 3 PDP episodes, it'll kind of punish me. And then the next popular episode only gets, a third or a half the traction it would have gotten if I just stayed quiet and laid low and made only the popular episodes. So that's what I talk about in terms of doing one-off episodes. I could put stuff on Dave's Attic, but we just don't have enough subscribers there. There's like 35,000. So if we had more subs on that channel, I would put more content on there. And I guess that's kind of the other way around too. So
Catch 22.
Indeed.
Scotomoto. Hi, Glenn. Hey, Dave. Is Mesmerizer open source? Says he's got some 128 by 64 panels, and can he build Mesmerizer using them?
Yes, you can. And I'm trying to think if it can handle that. Yes, it is open source. I've done 128 by 64. So yes, you should be able to do that. It's just at the edge of what the ESP32 can drive. You might have to go down to, 64 by 64 or something like that. All the effects are generally designed for 64 by 32. So some of these, some calculated dynamically, some don't, depends on what the effect. So But yes, it is open source. It's at nightdriverled.com. You can get the code for it.
Good, because I actually went into that YouTube comment a couple of days ago and dropped in the URL for Night Driver.
Oh, so, great.
Didn't see any feedback from that, but hopefully Scotomoto got a message on that and he can work away on that. Jeffrey Bassett, I know there's a bit of this too. And I know, when will the kit be available? eBay says 10 sold out of stock. And I think someone else had said, hey, I just bought the last one. So,
yeah, I put another batch up a couple days ago. So there should be plenty of them out there.
And I was at the home office over the weekend, and I noticed over on the side behind the other side of the garage, there was some boxes that were full, and a couple of times I participated in that. So you and your wife get the little assembly line going once every couple of weeks and code chips and plug them together in stuffed boxes. So it's a home operation for sure.
Yeah, they're basically dev kits at this point. So just kind of one off in them. If I was doing massive volume, I would find some other way to produce them, but we just kind of build them as needed for now. I am going to do an episode on the Mesmerizer pretty shortly, and that will probably spur some demand that I won't have supply to back up, but we'll see how it goes. I can also offer the circuit boards independently as opposed to as a full kit with the matrix and cables and remotes and sensor and all that. But then people got to source all that, and I basically pass out along a cost anyway, so what's the difference? It's a little more for me to ship and put together, but at least you get everything you need.
And that one does come with the one-off sort of, maybe 3-off printed frame holder for it. So
yeah, I don't include a frame holder.
Part of the kit. Yeah.
There's 3D plans available. You can print them out. But
they can do that themselves or find a source. Okay, SG Holman. I'm going to pass off a couple of questions to you here, and then I'm going to try and pull some out of the comments here. Really enjoy your videos. They're informative, very same time entertaining. In one of your sessions, you talked about core memory. So his first job as an electronics technician was testing core memory boards for control data in 1973. Do you have any experience with CDC equipment?
Not with CDC, no. I don't. Well, I saw the CDC 6500 and 6600. They had it at the Living Computer Museum here. And that was a very cool, impressive installation. In terms of CDC myself, no. But in terms of core memory, I've got one core memory story, which is I had Rutger in here from the home office in the Netherlands, and I had a core memory board that I had bought on eBay because it fits the PDP-11, it plugs into my backplane, it's got all the same 6 tabs. I've got MOS memory in mine. I've got 256K of MOS memory, and this was like a 16K, or maybe it was 32K. It was small anyway, and it was a core memory board. You know, and it's very pretty to look at and everything else. I'm like, it'd be cool if I could just boot this up and see that it actually works, not it persists across reboots and power downs, because core memory holds its state when you turn the machine off. It doesn't lose it like RAM or like MOS RAM. Anyway, so I checked, it looks all the same, and I plugged it in, turned it on, and a massive amount of smoke came out, and me and Rick were just like, oh no. And it turns out your backplane has to be specifically wired in a particular slot for core memory, which mine, of course, being newer than core memory, was not wired for. And so I did some damage, but it's all fixed. I fixed it.
Yeah, it was quite a interesting weekend there. And they're not hard drives, they're cassette drives, sort of cassette tape drives.
Oh, the big 9-inch or 9-track tape?
No, the smaller ones, the little, you tried.
Oh, the TK50.
4 or 5 of those things or something, and just cannot get one to go.
Yeah, I've bought like 6 TK50 drives and 3 controllers, and I cannot get any combination of those to work. If you have a working TK50 on a DEC PDP-11, please let me know, reach out, let me know how it works and what you did, this magic, because I can't figure it out. So I must be doing something wrong. And every time I then try to load a tape, it just not eats the tape, but it won't let it go. And so you've got to disassemble the machine to ever get the tape back. And that's pretty frustrating. So I'm doing something wrong.
Okay. And then the other thing he asked, too, SG Holman, have you tested your wife's plaid at the strip, the drag strip, or has she? He says his wife won't even go to the strip. If you haven't done a 9-second quarter, it's worth going.
Yeah, I would love to. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure they won't let me at the track here. They know that that car will run 9s, and what is it, under $11.99 in a modern car? You have to have a cage, so they won't let you run here without a cage.
Right.
It used to be you could, run once and they get mad and kick you out, and then you could have your fun in a single pass, even if it was an expensive pass. But not anymore. They won't let you try.
But you had an old now, Corvette, and was it running in the 9s, or is it just
It was
10?
11.6, but I had
11.6, okay.
I had a cage in it, or a 5-point cage that I added, so
Yeah.
which is 4 plus a crossbar.
Okay. The Richie 2, sorry. Got any opinions on secure communications? Can't think of why that springs to mind today.
No, I use FaceTime and iMessage, and I think Apple is actually pretty good about protecting your privacy. I assume nothing is perfect, and that if I put it into a program, somebody somewhere is going to be able to read it to me back in a courtroom somewhere. So I'm always careful about what I do and say. I don't rely on encryption or private channels to protect me in that sense. And that's why I'm content to rely on iMessage, which is fully encrypted end to end. And so in theory, Apple doesn't have a key into your communication. And so as far as I know, they can't see what you're sending to other iMessage recipients or they can't snoop on your FaceTime calls. I don't think they can get a warrant or be forced with a warrant to provide it, but that I don't know. I know Apple has rejected most warrant requests from the FBI. Like when it comes to, you have to open this phone. They're like, we don't know how, and we won't anyway.
Yeah. Thank you. John Waddell, what do you guys think about Smalltalk as a language?
I have never used it.
Oh, okay.
I took a language course in college where we did a whole bunch of languages like Lisp and Prolog and Ada and some other weird. I don't think we did Smalltalk, or I'd remember it. But yeah, so even though with my language tour, I did not cover it. I believe it's one of the first object-oriented languages, if I understand correctly.
Okay. So it's not a new language. This is an old.
Oh, it's ancient. Yeah. Well,
Ancient.
they probably said it was new at the time, not like those old Fortran we always, but.
Well, it would have been new at one point. I mean, I know that much. That's about the
That's what I mean. It was like new relative to Fortran and COBOL, but it's not a new language.
Michael Giambroni, will we ever get an audiobook of Secrets of the Artistic Millionaire?
Yes, in fact, the contract has been signed and I've got my advance and they're recording it now.
And the non-visible part of the spectrum, you're going to do one of that too?
I may. It's available now as an Amazon audiobook where they have the AI read it. And I went through and I did some pronunciation. Like I didn't know how to pronounce MS-DOS. And so kind of that thing I tuned up. But you can still tell it's an AI. And I hope they disclose that because it's not me reading it. It's an AI. But it's good enough to listen to in the car. I listened to it for quite a while. And very entertaining. Moving book, by the way, too.
I listen to podcasts.
It really spoke to me.
I might have to go back to music because I find I'm falling asleep with some of my podcast stuff now. It's just too soothing. Now we got someone up who's way past their bedtime. Says Jabba, they're seeing us live from Europe. Yep. Says, wow, late for me. What do you think about the ESP32 hack debug codes and the media coverage?
I'm not too worried about it. You have to have local administrative access, not administrative access, well, because it's the only kind there is. You have to have local code execution on the ESP32 to begin with, and then you can enable these extra commands to do things like set or change or view the MAC ID and all these other kind of network-based commands. But it's not like somebody can drive by your house with a van and a dish and point it at your ESP32 and take it over by Wi-Fi. If that were the case, that would be much spookier, but that isn't the case, so. I don't think it's a backdoor. I think it's just debugging utilities. Now, I'm not an expert on this, and I have reads of the articles about it. It seems like basically debug code and a utility code that was left in, but it's only accessible if you're on the chip. So,
speaking of driving by in a van, have you ever watched any British TV for their VPN or anything like that? BBC.
I saw a lot of British TV on the Sundays in Canada because I grew up and the CBC ran out of stuff to show, so they'd show BBC stuff. But
I know, like, if you do that and they say, oh, do you have a TV license? So apparently in the UK you had to buy a license to get your TV. And I think if it's right, they would literally drive by in vans and they could tell if you had a license or not, which seems bizarre to me. But, the UK folks are going, well, duh, how do you think they figured it out? I'm like, well, it's a foreign concept to me, but
yeah, I saw a video on that where the police came to the guy's door and they were like, "We're coming in to check," and he's like, "Okay, here you'd need a warrant and it's signed by a judge and all kinds of things. You can't just we suspect you of pirating HBO. We're coming in.
Yeah.
Go SWAT, go."
I guess a Bobby and his whistle, or I don't know. I call the cops here. I'm going to get in trouble for that from my other friend, Dave. Did you get thunderstorms up there yet? Oh, we got a weather. This Joe Hamlin's asking from, I think, PDX. That must be Portland, is it? The airport exchange for Portland?
Yeah. Sounds right.
Oh, hey, look at that. Not bad for a Canadian, hey?
No thunderstorms yet. I got the generator standing by. I'm on a UPS. I don't know if all this equipment, my teleprompter and microphone could go dead for all I know, but if we lose the power, I will be back in a few moments. But
wouldn't that be cool? Yeah. Do it live. Michael, hey, Dave, are you going to buy a Unify Enterprise Fortress Gateway now that it can fully handle your 5 gigabyte connection?
Well, I've got 5, and the Unify can almost handle 5. Well, I have UDM Pro Max Turbo 3D Extreme Plus, whatever I've got now, whatever was cool 3 weeks ago before the Fortress Extreme came out. Yeah, I've got to contact the Unify, but I would need faster internet to justify it, so I haven't sought it out yet.
Okay, I'm going to pound some more questions into my list here, see what I can find. Have you ever used the Haiku operating system, FC Bayardinum?
No, I've heard of it, but I have never used it.
Never used it. Did you try any exotic OSCSs like React OS, Colibri, Serenity, Calibri? That's from Megri. Any other weird?
The most exotic thing
systems?
I've run, strangest thing I've run is Wine back in the 90s when it was very, very new. But it sort of worked. And it simulated Windows, I guess. Or maybe it's not an emulator. That's what Wine stands for. Wine is not an emulator.
Oh, right. I remember that.
And there's a name for acronyms that reference themselves, like GNU is not GNU. GNU is not Unix. Is another example, but I forget what that term is called. If you remember, let me know in the comments, because now it's bugging me.
GNU is not Unix. I like that. Joe Hamlin, what do you think about Windows LTSC?
Well, I've thought a lot about it, and I've concluded that I don't know what Windows LTSC is.
Joe might have to expand on his question there. What else have we got here?
And define the acronyms. I can't stress that enough, people. Define your acronyms if it's new.
There you go. Yeah. Phobos Moon. What do they call the sprite things in Smalltalk? Turtles? I don't even know what that means.
You don't know. I used Logo, and there was a turtle, and you could drive the turtle up, right? So it was a language where you could say, start the turtle, turn on the turtle's trail, drive up 100 pixels, go over 100 pixels, down 100 pixels, back 100 pixels, draw a square. And that was called the turtle.
What else have we got here? Oh, yeah. What's your drink of choice? Dave Mitchell Richters. Hello from Australia. What's your drink of choice? Not sure it was a Scotch, bourbon, etc.
I got Kentucky bourbon today in solidarity with my American friends, but I'm also wearing my red plaid jacket today in solidarity with my Canadian friends. So,
okay. And the Richie has clarified that the license detector, I guess, aka the dude in the van, the license detector vans were a legendary con. Also, they have no right to enter your property, so I guess you're safe in the UK.
Oh, good.
That's why.
Well, the one I saw, they said they did, and the guy let him in. So, I do have one van pointing at a tenant at a building story, believe it or not. This is late 90s, early 2000s, and it was a government agency came by, Microsoft, and they were showing us some of their privacy and hacking stuff. And we went out to a van, and it had a dish, and they pointed it at the building, and I couldn't tell whose office they were pointing it at, but they were able to pick up and resolve a very blurry, but you could read the text on it, image of a guy's monitor, or girl's monitor, I don't know, inside the Microsoft building. And I think I was pretty impressed, and I'm still impressed by that, but I think it requires that it be a CRT. I don't think they could probably pick up LCD, because at that time we were still mostly rocking CRTs. So, okay.
And I did get told also that I'm in trouble about my TV detector vans. Apparently, I've fallen for the big scam. So it's a story. Hey, works good for me. Let's see what else we got for a question here, Dave. What about an AI NPU chip that can client-side scan content?
Scan content? I'm not sure what you mean by scan it, unless you just mean feeding stuff in, and that's possible with the Apple NPU and all that, and the new ones on the PC side as well. Recall was going to be something like that and scan everything in.
Okay. And Lucid Macedo, or Lucid Moses, sorry, when I cut and paste, it puts the first word in with their their username Lucid Moses. Do you guys read messages from older main videos?
No, but I do see them because I sort of see them in the comments view of the YouTube channel, which sorts by recent comment and not by recent video for me. So occasionally I will see and still respond to stuff on a video that's 6 months or a year old, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so most of the stuff that happens on this Dave Attic, this Shop Talk thing that we do, is I go back to episodes from our previous Shop Talk and episodes you've done on Dave's Garage, the main channel, and I pull stuff with question marks in it, so that gets done. I mean, the odd time, I'll go through and respond to stuff, but I'm not going. Once I've sort of pulled the questions about 5 days after the Shop Talk videos or 5 or 6 days after the main channel ones, I don't go back after that. So if you're adding a question 2 or 3 weeks later, it's not going to get picked up. So, which
there
is
used to
a
be
fair
a YouTube.
point.
Yeah, that's kind of why I try to look for still the older ones. But there used to be a YouTube API that you could programmatically do things like set the title on a video and query for comments and things like that. It'd be nice if you could just say, pull my comment, sort by recency, look for anything with a question mark, and group by video. You know, it's a really simple query, but I think they took away the ability to do all that in the YouTube API. If there still is a YouTube API, I'm not sure. Are we getting questions on the box coming in from the actual episode?
The box coming in from the actual
Yeah, that makes no sense. Allow me to rephrase. Live questions from the live audience.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm pulling here. I'm trying
Okay,
to.
great.
Yeah. Kevin says, what are your favorite languages to use right now? Is there anything really floating your boat?
I'm not stoked about it, but I've been doing a lot of Lua and Python in the last 2 weeks. And I was impressed with Lua, that Lua makes more sense to me than Python does, believe it or not, at least in terms of syntax and not requiring indenting and stuff. And nothing wrong with Python. I'm used to it now, but they're just different enough that if I had to pick one, I think I'd pick Lua over Python. Although the support for libraries is enormous in Python compared to Lua, I'm sure.
And you're using those related to your efforts trying to develop an AI that can beat the world's record on Tempest, correct?
Yeah, the problem I face is that the scripting engine built into MAME, the arcade emulator, is all Lua, and then all the good AI libraries like Stable Baseline 3 and so on are all Python libraries. So I wound up writing a Lua to Python bridge over named pipes to push the data through, and then it comes out and it is processed on the Python side. It talks to the model and returns the answer back to the Lua side, which tells MAME what to do on the next frame.
And that had sort of stalled on you. You said you were it was working on playing like a drunk monkey or something. I think you said. And then just the other night you said, oh yeah, I found a couple of bugs and fixed them, but it didn't have the result that I was hoping for. And then I think last night you said, oh, were you up to anything? If you got time to chat, I'm just watching the computer play Tempest. So it's sort of any progress that you noticed last night or?
Yeah, it's playing better. I can't convince myself it's playing smart in any way or that it's responding to the game. I mean, it's doing the right things. It's moving back and forth. It's strafing. It's shooting. It's occasionally super zapping. It's doing all those things. It's just not very good at it yet. And I'm not sure if it's getting any better. I know mathematically the loss score goes down as it trains, which I assume is a good indication. But in terms of visual, like what's it doing? It's got a long way to go.
I'm just going to move my screen over. Oh, no, I'll move that over later. Frank RPDP. 8. Dave, just watched the Longhorn video. Interesting. Did you work on NT and which versions?
Oh, there's our thunder.
Oh, there you go. Portland, yeah. Okay, well, we'll see, because Portland's what, like 6 hours south of you? 4 hours?
Oh, 3, I think.
Okay, and I'm 2 hours north, so we'll see if I hear thunder in another half hour or 45.
There you go.
Anyways, which versions of NT were you involved with?
I came in just after, I was at Microsoft when 3.1, which was the first version of NT shipped, but I was in MS-DOS. And then shortly later, thereafter, I moved to OLA32 and COM on NT 3.5. Then I was on the shell for NT 3.5.1 and 4.0 and XP and so on. After that, I was on the shell team and media center teams or the NT media center team for quite a while.
And then at the end, we were working just before you left Microsoft. We were working on Longhorn. You weren't working on. You got pulled back into NT, or? Well,
the last project I did before Longhorn was Windows XP product activation. Oh, and then we went on Longhorn, and I was doing media center stuff. Okay. And then we got pulled back to work on the service packs for XP, the security issues. And I think that was the last thing I worked on was XP SP2 and Server 2003 because I've got the watch. So.
What?
Well, I don't have it on now, but
Watches?
yeah, I got a Swiss Army watch that says Server 2003 on the clasp. I gave that one to my brother, so he's got that. So
Okay. Sea Beast 4, and I've heard this a couple of times now. He says, anyone else having video repeating a few times, then back to normal? So it's the audio and the video sort of loops about 3-4 times, and it's happened. I've noticed it at least twice, maybe 3 times. Not sure if you have, Dave, but we've experienced that before. Yeah, just in this live episode, and that was an issue we were having early on when we started.
Yeah, I thought that was when a microphone or something went out of range and came back. Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on it and see if that happens. If not, we'll go to raw YouTube streaming with the OBS and do it the old way.
The OBS. Okay, I just finished off that round of questions. Let me see if I can grab another stack here. Did you look at the new Lucid Moses? Did you look at the new Model M keyboards?
No, I didn't know there were new ones. I know that DOS keyboard is very similar. And who's the company that actually bought the rights to the Model M? Not Daktronics. I can't remember the name of the company, but they do make the Model M keyboard basically. They make it in black and stuff. And now it has a Windows key. So I've never bought one, but because out in the shop here, I've got an RGB unit because that's what goes well in my shop. But yeah, I can't remember the name of the guys that make the the PS2 keyboard that you would use if you were working on OS2.
Okay, let's see if I can find some more here. Did I already ask you this, John Spence? Do you want to? Oh yeah. Well, this is a little bit. Someone said this is Gray Hodge and another guy has posted recursive acronyms. Look at the ones that.
Yeah, but it's not. There's another name for it.
Oh, okay. There's a better name. John Spence, Dave, do you want to share your opinion? This is an option. You don't have to. He says, do you want to share your opinion on using Signal?
Signal. I've never used Signal.
Oh, okay.
Last time I used encrypted messages, other than like iMessage and stuff, I used TrueCrypt. And last time I used TrueCrypt was on disk. PGP was the email thing I used, dealing with some attorneys in another state, and they wanted to use PGP back and forth, so we did.
Sparky Wolf Productions. Sparky Wolf Productions. Dave, what's your opinion on the OOP debate? I've heard a lot of people opine recently that it makes code harder to read and understand. Well, it shouldn't. Object-oriented programming should make it more easier to understand. In fact, so if it's done when they're put together. Otherwise, you can get these complex inheritance hierarchies that are almost impossible to sort out. So it's really up to the skill and diligence and dedication of the person that creates the class structure as to how object-oriented programming will turn out. Scott Johnson, my sister's daughter is 12, autistic, and seems interested in coding. Any suggestions for her? Does she play a lot of Minecraft? Maybe she could script some Minecraft. That'd be a fun thing to do, I think. Okay. Blair M says, did you say that you're selling your PDP-11? Why? What's the next purchase? A bigger PDP-11. So Mitch Miller at Keyways has found for me a dual chassis BA23 and BA23S with the massive cable that goes between them to connect the two buses. And he's shipping that out, but I got to pay for that. So I'm selling one of the good PDP-11s to pay for that. Yeah, and you're not selling your PDP-11. You're selling one of your PDP-11s. Yeah, I'm selling Apollo. I've got Apollo, I've got Minerva, I've got Lazarus, and I've got Spanky. I sold Rusty. The draft. John Spence. Dang, they didn't want to talk about Signal. Neither one of us use it. Not much to talk about, right? Although I hear if you're going to send like secret military details to anybody, it is the way to do it. Highly recommend. That's all I know for sure. I haven't followed the news that closely, but I see they're arguing now about what got leaked and whether it's important. And the guy apparently sent a message I saw, and it's like the F-18s will strike at this minute, 6:43 p.m. and the bombs will land at 7:14. And yeah, that seems like it's at least specific and actionable information. I don't know if it's classified. I would think so. I'm going to stay out of that because it's, political hot button. And anytime I say anything in any way controversial, people just freak out. So no matter where you go on that, it's not going to end well. And that's not, it. Mickey Finn. I was diagnosed with autism a few years ago in my late 40s. I struggle with that diagnosis as it means my problems with others are all mine. How do you deal with that? Well, it's not that the problems are all yours. They manifest in a way
The responsibility for the problem is not entirely yours. The problem might be all yours in that it doesn't impact the other people. But the responsibility for where that communication deficit lies could be 50% on the other person, 50% on you. It's hard to say.
I mean, the other thing I think is that it might just be simple use of language, but it's not. Autism isn't a problem.
Well, it can be, right? It has
it can be
negative
problematic.
manifestation.
Yeah, it's something. I mean, cancer, or I mean, it's a diagnosis. It's a thing that affects you. It can result in some problems and cause some problems, but it doesn't mean you're broken or wrong or need fixing.
Right.
It's something you gotta. But it certainly can be probably even in some ways more problematic for others, which then you internalize as more problem. That's a tough thing. Megri, do you think AI-based compilers could directly understand and compile code without traditional compilers?
Probably. I saw somebody typed in a C program and then had it converted to assembly, which, is basically the job of a compiler, and it did it pretty well. Now, it was translating the algorithm as opposed to the actual syntax of the command. It was reading, internalizing what that code was doing, and then emitting an assembly language to do the same thing. But that's kind of what an assembler does too, or what a compiler does too. So,
the Richie's back in here. I haven't used MAME for over a decade. Is it still well supported? I guess.
Yeah, it seems it's solid as heck. I use the debugger in it. It's pretty cool. I use the scripting language. It all works well. So impressive stuff.
Now a curmudgeon. Oh man, I like that. Ignoring drive A and B, what would Windows do if it finds 25 drives?
There used to be a command that you could set in the config.sys that would set the upper limit. And I can't remember. Oh man, tell me in the comments or in the video comments. It's in config.sys, like high drive equals, and then you could set what the highest drive letter and the highest you could go, I think, would be Z. Now, I've heard stories that people went past that in the ASCII table. I don't know what comes after Z. Let's say square left bracket. That you could map a drive to that, but I have my doubts.
JL, Dave, what's your thought? Okay, you're only allowed one, apparently, on where Microsoft is today.
Food. Oh, one thought. Oh.
Right over there, right? About 10 miles.
Well, I was thinking about Microsoft today, and here's the thing. They use BASIC to pay for DOS, and then they use DOS to pay for Windows, and they use Windows to pay for Windows 95, and they use Windows 95 to pay for Windows NT, and Windows NT became the current systems, and they used Windows to pay for Azure. So they're always managing to come up with the next big thing, and they've been doing it for, 50 years now?
Yeah, I mean, I go back... Not that anyone cares what my opinion is, but I'm going to opine anyway.
Let's have it.
To the early 90s. And, there was a lot of hate towards Microsoft and, dominance and monopoly and all this stuff and forcing and, Windows Explorer and all these. And they're just a terrible, hate for every, Bill Gates and the whole company and everybody associated with it. But it's now 30, 40 years later. It's still doing stuff. And I still remember that hatred, and it's so easy to have that and think that way. But on the other hand, it's kind of, well, what have you done in terms of building an enterprise, and not just Bill Gates, but all the people that were part of the initial group and have gone through it. Well, what has your contribution been in terms of software and computers and that? Like, not too many folks have been able to assemble that kind of a company together and do things, and even what you talked about with the Longhorn project, like, getting to a point of trying to pursue that stuff in years and years and then backing it all off and starting over again. Like, there's some hard lessons in there, but they keep on slugging, and someone's got to build it. Now we've got Google and other things that are just as bad or worse, or people feel the same about their hatred on that stuff just because they're big, but everybody's
what I find funny is that, they used to hate on Microsoft for basically their corporate practices, for doing things like requiring that if OEM wanted the best deal on MS-DOS they could get, that they had to ship it on every machine they sold, no matter how many people opted for MS-DOS. Deals like that were later defined by the court to be anti-competitive. I don't care about that. What I care about is now you can't log into Windows without an online account, and it forces you to almost forces you to install Edge, and you get ads on your start menu and all these other monetization practices. I understand that they treat Windows Home as if it was basically free now, and woo, yeah, it's getting closer. But I find it really frustrating. I'm of the opinion that if you could buy Pro for $299 a year or something, I would just buy Pro if it came with no ads, no monetization, no telematics, no for your operating system. I could live with that. If YouTube's $19.95 a month, the system's got to be worth $29.
I'm gonna pound some more questions into my side screen here. See if I can find something. Do you recall an entertaining? This is from Liam VG. Do you recall an entertaining bug in Win98 where you could close the start menu by typing a certain key sequence? It would disappear until restart. Do you know why or how that happened?
No, I don't, but maybe Control F4 or Alt F4 would close the window, which would be the tray, and that owns the start menu. And so, well, then the start menu is owned separately, I think, but the tray could disappear. So other than that, no, I have to say I'm not familiar with it.
David Riddle says, you, Dave, explained that Longhorn is a bar between Whistler and Blackcomb. What's the connection to Microsoft that anyone down there was naming systems after bars in British Columbia?
Well, not me, but if you're living in the Pacific Northwest in the 1990s and you're making millions of dollars in stock options, what do? You go skiing a lot in the winter, I think. I used to see ads in the lunchroom, hella skiing, sign up with me, split the cost. I'm like, hella skiing? No, hell no.
That's a hella no.
Yeah, for me it is.
Yeah, I guess there's world-class skiing up in Whistler, so that's cheaper than going to the Alps, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
John Spence says, the thunderstorm is right over Dave's area right now. It's going to mess with stuff. So
we'll see how it goes. Stay tuned, man.
Yeah. Now you tell your friends they got to join in because things might go sideways. Richard Johnson, so what do you think about Google's super duper computer?
I haven't seen anything about their super duper computer. This is not tech news. You gotta ask me that a day after tech news so that I've seen it and I can answer.
This one has got a symbol in its name, just plain dumb SH*T. Hey Dave, have you ever played with software-defined radios?
A very little bit. Enough to like pick up a local thing. I had a little kit that I tinkered with like 4 years ago, very briefly, and then gave it back to the guy that loaned it to me. But briefly, I think Jeff Geerling has a pretty good episode on SDRs, if I recall correctly.
So what's a software-defined radio?
So instead of having a crystal that you like manually tune, you can define the bands and the frequency decoding and all that in software. And that's about all I can tell you about it.
Oh, okay. Could you pick up a radio signal through that with an antenna then?
Yes, and you can pick up different kinds of signals. You know, frequency modulation is very different from amplitude modulation, but the chip is able to handle both and probably shortwave and all other kinds of stuff.
Because I'm trying to find like some way to get a radio connected to my computer without like, I don't know. That's my own thing.
You just want FM and AM. Probably.
Yeah. Yeah, I just buy a cheap FM thing. I just stop trying to make it so damn difficult. So he says, if so, what kind of frequencies you're playing with? And then he says, did you ever try Tempest, the HDMI kind of Tempest?
No.
Sounds like
no,
fun.
I have not.
Oh, okay. Steve, did you help implement any Windows accessibility features such as text-to-speech or tooltips?
No, the only thing we did was make sure that absolutely everything, like in Task Manager, can be done from the keyboard as opposed to requiring a mouse. Because if you get, a Mac without a mouse, you can't really get a lot done. At least with Windows, if you're not using a mouse, there's still keyboard shortcuts for pretty much. I was pretty diligent about that. And I think, there were accessibility people would look over your shoulder and make sure too. But
Cristiano Suzuki, is it true that aliens use Task Manager in their spaceships?
I would assume so. Future Task Manager, but
are you allowed to talk about that, or did you just?
Oh, I don't know anything about it. I can neither confirm nor deny the existence of Task Manager on alien spaceships.
Where did that come from?
I was in a meeting once with a guy that was taking us on a tour of the USS Carl Vincent, I think, one of the big aircraft carriers. And so he came to the office to pick us up, and he said he was from Bainbridge. I'm like, I'd heard that's where oh, it's not where the nuclear weapons are stored. And he just like flat response. I can neither confirm nor deny the existence of nuclear weapons at Bainbridge Island. So, it was well
digital
practiced.
confusion. What is your opinion on the most lame Windows OS release ever? Windows Me.
8.
Windows
Me was all right. It had some problems, but and I don't want to pick on 8 too much because if your goal is to unify it in such a way that touch becomes a viable experience on a Windows desktop, then Windows 8 makes a lot of sense. But if there are no Windows tablets that take the world by storm and everybody's still using a mouse and keyboard, then I think the start menu should be in the bottom left corner because that's the easy way to anchor it with your mouse. Even the middle doesn't make sense to me. If it's touch, I understand it, but putting the start menu in the middle of the screen makes no sense because if it's in the bottom left, you can just drag all the way bottom left and you know that you're on the start menu if you pop up a pixel. I don't think you have to pop up a pixel, but
That sounds
like if you think about it, if you go all the way to the bottom left, it's like 3 pixels up to get to the start button, but I think they let you click even off it. So
okay. Aaron wants to know, does Microsoft exist in 50 years from now?
probably, but it won't be the same.
There you go.
But it's hard to know with AI.
Yep. Someone else asked, no, I won't, something about, no, I think that was an internal question, somewhat rhetorical. Lucas, remember that market domination, Dell, etc., DOS window deals, why they never did Windows on Unix?
There's always licensing problems with Unix, right? That's why BSD isn't called Unix. So could they build something on free BSD? Yeah, by the late 90s, I guess they could. But otherwise, Microsoft had the Xenix and the other options from AT&T, but they had to buy a license for every copy that they in turn sold. So selling Xenix was good for AT&T, but not so good for Microsoft necessarily. I think Dave C. explained that what Microsoft was doing was they would buy massive bulk licenses from AT&T. Like, hey, we need 1,000 or 10. I don't know what was massive for Xenix. We need 1,000 licenses maybe. And they would buy them from AT&T and then resell them piecemeal individually to users that needed them. So they made money that way. But not a lot.
I just posted a bunch more stuff here at the very bottom where I got to. Jabba has put in here, nice reminder for me. Don't forget to hit like button and subscribe if you're enjoying this and future content. One thing I don't think we did, and it might be curious, is why the heck did we do a live episode tonight?
I don't know. It's something different.
I think I know part of it. And it's sort of how this whole Dave's or ShopTalk thing came to be. Sitting in the car, driving in the car, and I think, this is like whatever, 6 months ago. I think we should do a weekly podcast thing. And I kind of think you're half joking. And then like 2 weeks later, we did it. And then I was down last weekend and you're saying, we should do a live one sometime, blah, blah, blah. And it's just sort of, more fanciful thinking. And we'll do it. And then I went to pull the questions for this episode tonight. And I'm like, you hadn't done an episode on Dave's Garage, so there's nothing to pull from there. And we had a pretty short list of questions from the Shop Talk. So Dave, we hardly got any questions. So what are you going to do? May as well have to do a live one. And you're like, yeah, we'll do it live. So it just sort of happened. So let's Lucid Moses has another one here. Before Windows Server, NetWare would map drive _. Does that mean DOS supported it?
Yeah, probably. I don't know what the next character in the ASCII table was. Maybe it's _, but I've heard that would work up to a point.
Gerald Tompkins, why does Windows continue to have so many 0 days?
I don't know that it has any more than anything else, but I don't remember the last big Windows 0 day.
You did an episode on it, I think.
I did, actually. That was a long time ago.
Wow, this one. So I'm going to ask this question. I don't know if it's legit or what it is. Andreas Joanai, Windows NT 4.0 plus CMPXCHG8B plus CPU ID 3 plus equals stop OX3E plus garbage text plus triple fault. But why?
Apparently, it's the Windows triple fault, but what the other nonsense in there is, I'm not sure.
What's a Windows triple fault? Is there such a thing?
It'll bug check your machine, long story short. It sounds like he's got a way that he believes that you can bug check the machine. I doubt it works on a current Windows version, but it may have worked at one time.
Okay. I think Andreas Joe and I, that one that I was I think that was gobbledygook, says, why does Windows NT4 crash and triple fault on modern processors? So I think
Probably a new instruction. I actually have no idea. I didn't know that it did, so I can't really tell you why or how it did or does. I know I've run it in a VM on modern processor or emulating a modern processor, and it worked, but I don't know other than that.
Questions?
Yeah,
Drew
that wasn't
Bell
a good one.
wants to know,
No offense to the guy. But
yeah, I don't. I'm
wasn't a
not
good
whether
answer.
they're good or
Bad
bad.
answer.
I'm just picking some out. Drew Bell, is Windows File Explorer search really bad, or are they doing it wrong?
I think if the content indexing works, it's great. If the content indexing is not set up or broken or OneDrive is not working, then it blows and it's just useless. And you might as well have the search dog. But when content indexing works, I think it's great and fast.
Band-Aid your code. Can you build Task Manager for Mac, please? Would love a great Mac process manager. Windows Task Manager is gold.
Thank you. Well, I can get by with Activity Monitor on the Mac, but it would be nice to have a little more feature parity and responsiveness parity. Windows Task Manager is a fair bit more responsive and updates faster than the Mac one by quite a bit.
So what would it take to do something on the Mac like that?
Somebody of enormous skill, intellect, and beauty to know. Somebody who knows how to write an app for Macs. I've never written a complicated Mac app.
Cool. Well, we're getting lots of stuff going on there. This is fun. It's a little bit challenging trying to pull the questions. So again, I appreciate folks.
I appreciate you doing it
with that. It is fun though, and we had talked about doing it, and now we did it. I don't know what else. Do you want to take a couple more? Or?
If you got one more, yeah, we'll do one more.
Oh, let me just get this darn thing going here. And I'm crowding on my mic.
What does the unladen weight of a South African swallow?
John Sims. Livestream equals Wacky Wednesday. Hey, there you go. That's what we're here for. Dave's here for the information.
If you look at the
I'm here for the entertainment.
If you look at the viewer graph of my channel, I get like a heat map of when people are online. And Saturdays and Sundays are the busiest. Wednesday is the least busy. And Wednesday night is the least busy of all. So not the best time to do it, but hey, it's a good time to try it, I guess.
Okay, I know you're not much of a gamer, Dave. Darth X Zero, best game of all time? I mean, you're partial to Tempest, of course, but...
Yeah, I would probably, with all legitimacy, pick Tempest, and I would argue it and defend it, but it's a hard argument to have because it's all so much dependent on how much you love the game and your memory. Like, I remember going over to Rob Antonishen's house once and playing Jumpman on a cartridge on a Commodore 64 and staying up till like 3 a.m. And that was an absolute blast. I played like 6 hours of Jumpman, and now I'm very fond of Jumpman. But you go back and play it, it's like, oh, what a horrible game mechanic. You have to go right to the ladder. It has to be directly up. Oh, this sucks. So it depends how you remember it.
My head was spinning. I'm trying to think of what on the Commodore 64. I think it was Lode Runner.
Yeah, that was a good game, popular game.
Oh, that was a good one, man. Yep. I think I spent at least an hour playing that. I don't think I could start it and play for less than an hour. Again, Frank R., the PDP dude here. Dave, how did you get hooked on DEC PDP hardware? He's a big fan as he worked on those machines in the early 80s as an intern.
We had them in college, and we had them when I was a little kid. Like when I was 12, 13, I used to ride my bike down to the university campus lab and get in there, and they had 1140 or 1144. And they let us walk in, and if you acted like you knew what you were doing there, you go up and use the terminal and play with it on the weekends. So I did that a lot. And so, of course, I admired the giant PDP-11 machines, and then we had access to them in college. Just a couple of years ago, I bought a PDP-11 CPU, this little dude here, and that was the start of my addiction to PDP-11 hardware, because then I bought a backplane, and I bought a CPU card, and I bought a memory card, and I made that work with a power supply. And now I got so many parts I'm putting together to sell machines and pay for other machines. So.
VE5SAR Hamnetics says, was it because Jumpman was the most pirated game in Saskatchewan? Asking for a friend.
Probably. Actually, Jumpman had pretty good copy protection, as I remember. It was pretty hard to copy. And even the cartridge version, Jumpman Jr., was also fairly hard to copy. I mean, I did see copied pirated versions, but Rob had the real disc. He had the actual game. So. Yeah,
I remember the name. And I'm sure I played the game, but I can't visualize it. But I'll go look it up shortly after this and figure it out. And then VE5SAR, most underrated reason for doing live episodes, establishing an alibi. I think
There
we're
you go.
covered for tonight on the thunderstorm. I don't know. Yeah, that's
Well, let's wrap it
that
up
was
there.
pretty good. That's a good run.
Yeah.
That's 53 minutes. Usually I consider that to be a pretty long episode. So I think it went fine. It's a little bit more nerve-wracking certainly than recording it, but yeah. It is what it is.
But yeah, if you do enjoy it, then of course, not only subscribe to Dave's Garage, which you probably already are if you're seeing this, but if you want to see more of the podcast format, we don't do it on Dave's Garage very often. It airs every Friday on Dave's Attic, and there'll be a link in the video description to Off to Dave's Attic. So you can go check out the back episodes. They're a little more polished and edited because we're not as nervous, and they're also edited. So any uncomfortable pauses or talking over top of each other is removed by our expert editor, Joseph.
And put question marks in. You got a question, put a question mark in it. That's what I pull out. And usually it's sort of within those first 5 days. So if you're looking at an episode and it's been, more than a week, you might want to hang on to your question and pop it early on the next episode.
Or just text Glenn. I'll put his number in the comments.
Oh, that probably hurt people's ears when I clapped that close to the mic. But yeah. That's we'll figure it out. Anyways, this was a lot less nerve-wracking than I thought it might be. It was kind of fun, and I hope people enjoyed it. I see a bunch of stuff floating up and down off to the side, so it looks like people are enjoying this crazy Saskatchewan shenanigans. So,
all right. Well, thanks for joining us out here, and thanks for joining me, Glenn, and helping out, and appreciate it. I hope to see you next time right here in Shop Talk, or in Dave's Garage for Shop Talk. We'll see you next time. This little chair will be waiting for one of you, and a rocking chair for another who likes to rock, and a big armchair for two to curl up in. All next time on Dave's Garage.